Is a One Direction reunion in the works? It's something that everyone's talking about at the moment, and who can blame them? You could say today has been a busy week for us. Welcome to my channel, I'm Dan, and I talk about and react to pop culture moments from the world of pop culture. Subscribe if you fancy it. Now, you and I both know that One Direction formed on The X Factor in 2010. It was the beginning of something great, with iconic performances such as and a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears. But on March the 25th, 2015, the world stopped spinning as Zayn Malik announced he was ready to run. It was his time to say love you, goodbye to his fellow bandmates and make his exit. It felt like the beginning of the end for our beloved boy band, and in January 2016, history was made as One Direction officially announced it was to go on an 18-month hiatus. 18-month hiatus. Remember that? Anyone? 18 months? It felt like a soft way to tell us that it was over. But then Louis Tomlinson laid to rest all of our fears with his infamous tweet. Right now, here we are, navigating our way through the dark, wondering if this hiatus will ever come to an end. In the last week or so, the speculation around a 1D reunion has been fireproof, because it just seems that there is no extinguishing the hope that remains among Directioners about the potential of a 1D reunion. A big part of this was Payne happily revealing that One Direction have got a new group chat.
But when are we going to see you back together?
I don't know, but we just started a new group chat, so...
Hey.
What do you think the group's called? I'm going to wager on WhatsApp Makes You Beautiful. The only thing I need to know, really, is are there 5 members in the chat or just 4? I'm going to tell myself it's all 5. Payne also said in the same interview that he's 100 days sober. I want to take a second out to celebrate that. Like, so proud of him. Like, for him to be out there living his life 100 days sober, that's such an amazing thing for him. I'm so happy for him. And I'm sure this year is just going to bring him so much success when he finally, eventually, please, releases his second album. Liam was also the catalyst for reunion rumours back in April when OK Magazine released a exclusive saying that a source close to the singer said he was desperate to bring back the band, reunite, relaunch his career and all of that stuff. And I mean, how much we can trust these anonymous sources is always up for debate, but I think the answer is never enough, or maybe even not at all. Like, where does it come from? No one knows. They could just be having a slow news day, and we all know that 1D is, and always has been, easy clickbait for these people. But another interesting thing was that there was a blind item that said that 3 out of 5 members of a foreign boy band were together in LA writing. So obviously everyone's like, well, that's One Direction. And it's so excited. They could be in there writing the best song ever, and we won't know about it until it's released, if it's ever released. And I don't know, I want to hear it soon, please. Thank you. And on that, who do we think was in the writing room? Because I personally think it would be Liam, Louis and Niall. I think Liam and Louis wrote so much together in the band, it makes sense. And I feel like Niall is there, isn't he, in LA? Yeah, you can't change my mind that it was Louis, Liam and Niall, I don't think. But again, how much can we trust these tips and these anonymous sources and these blind items? Like, how much can we actually put our hopes into them? Because even though you hear it and you're like, I'm going to believe all of it, we've got to try and maintain a little iota of dignity. Another thing that has started some speculation was Louis Tomlinson releasing his documentary All of Those Voices. The documentary sparked a load of interest when it was first announced and we got the first trailer, because we kind of realised that we'd be getting lots of unseen footage and moments of the One Direction boys during the years that they were together, and obviously that excited a lot of people. One of the most talked about moments of the documentary that I've seen was when Louis talked about recording a verse of a song and recording it over and over again, perfecting it, working with the producers, only for it to be taken from him. And when he listened to the song for the first time, it wasn't his voice on that verse, which is Like, it's so devastating, and I feel like we all knew at the time that that kind of stuff was happening, and to get confirmation of it was kind of like, it was what's the word, fucked up. But he does talk about his time in 1D mostly with fondness, and obviously another moment that went kind of big online was him talking about how he was so proud that he had the most songwriting credits in the band, and obviously Liam was close, but I feel like Louis really offered himself up to the band in a lot of ways, but his songwriting was one of the most impactful things that he did in the band. Because like we've just said, at the start of One Direction, his voice was kind of removed from the music. So he put himself in there with his songwriting. And then eventually, obviously, his singing was more and more and more, as was Niall's. Never quite got up to the same levels as Harry, Zayn and Liam, though. But yeah, I feel like some fans of, particularly Louis and Harry, from what I see online, can kind of discredit and disregard the beginnings of their careers as members of One Direction. But at the end of the day, that's where their careers began. It's where they started, and it's where they grew, you know, as singers, as musicians, as songwriters, as producers, as people who had influence over their own music. So it's no surprise that the boys do still look back on the days in One Direction with a positive kind of attitude, because at the end of the day, they learned so much, even from the negative. They learned so much that has evolved them into the people they are today, into the celebrities and famous people and musicians that they are today. And particularly for Louis, going from having little to no control over any decision in the early days of the band to now having kind of control over everything, from his music and from his songwriting to merch and tour locations and Away From Home Festival and all of that. And I feel like he really is in control. I feel like more than any of the others, he is the one that has taken control of his life and his career, and it's so evident in how proud he is of everything that he does. And that brings us to Harry Styles, who is on the final leg of Love on Tour, which is in the UK and Europe, and the little rumours that he's started up during his first couple of shows of this leg. I'm talking about, of course, when he surprised everybody by adding Stockholm Syndrome to the set list. Everyone went wild, and all over again, Twitter was rife with 1D reunion rumours. I personally thought Harry Styles might pull a T-Swizzle and do like a surprise song every night, and he was going to start with Stockholm Syndrome, and maybe he'd do all One Direction songs, or maybe he'd like pick some songs from HS1, because we know that the new setlist is quite light on his debut album. I was wrong, because on night 2, he performed Stockholm Syndrome again. But also on night 2, he teased the intro of Best Song Ever before he sang What Makes You Beautiful. And fans that have got ears that are more finely tuned than my own realised that when he sang Matilda, in the background you can hear the chords of Right Now. Matilda, you talk of the pain like it's all alright. I personally love that Harry's using this part of his tour to pay homage to the beginning of his career and the 1D days. I mean, his career started on The X Factor at 16 years old. He almost didn't get through until he was put into the boy band. It's kind of humble beginnings, yeah, regardless of how privileged he is in a lot of ways. The beginning of his career into music was very humble. And like he said in his Grammy speech, people don't win Grammys for Album of the Year after coming from the X Factor UK. Like, it doesn't happen. It's no surprise that when he looks back at 1D and when he looks back at the music he made and wrote, because he wrote Stockholm Syndrome, it's no surprise he wants to celebrate that, because that's where he began, you know? Don't forget where you belong, as he said. Louis Tomlinson also sings One Direction songs when he's on tour and does live shows, including Drag Me Down, Little Black Dress, Through the Dark, and obviously he sang Night Changes that one time. And we know that Niall does the same. There's so many videos of him singing Fool's Gold so beautifully, and then the crowd sing it back and he's like... It's like one of my favourite Niall moments. And then there's Zayn, of course, who literally broke Instagram by singing Night Changes and You and I. Just randomly one day posting videos of him singing those songs, and we all collectively lost our shit. I mean, what a feeling, right? To have Zayn Malik acknowledge his time in the band after all these years, and not just acknowledge it by mentioning it or talking about it, but by singing some of his most iconic moments from his time in that band. Like, those high notes were just formative of who he was and what his place was in the band. It's like Zayn Malik, high notes, that's who he is. Zayn Malik, his voice, yes. I missed it from Made in the AM. Like, I love Made in the AM, but it could never be my favourite album because there's no Zayn and I missed him. And at the end of the day, it's hard to know if he will ever make an appearance if One Direction did do a reunion. I like to think that he would, but only under certain circumstances. I can't see him ever wanting to go back to the constant touring and churning out music and having no control, because obviously there's a group of them, so he has to be one of 5 voices when it comes to producing music. I can't see him ever wanting to do that. I also can't see him wanting to do like a deep and meaningful interview where he talks about this time in the band, because I know that it was quite a traumatic experience for him more than the others, but I can see him joining them for a one-off gig or a one-off performance of his song. Do you know what? So I don't know, but we all want to see all 5 of them together at some point, right? And sometimes actions are better than words, and if we did get just a one-off performance, I don't think any of us would be alive afterwards. And I would love to see Zayn sing something from Made in the AM. Like, imagine Zayn's voice added to If I Could Fly. It would be the perfect song. Other things that are fueling the reunion windmill of fire include Harry and Niall confirming that they were on a walk together, and obviously Liam attending the premiere of All of Those Voices with Louis. So we've had pictures of 2 of them together. Come on, we need like a threesome now. Wait, what? No. And also Niall being a judge on The Voice, like seeing him go back to where his roots were and stand up for these contestants that are part of his team and really encourage them. It's so lovely to see him giving the advice that he probably never really had in the same kind of positive way. And yeah, maybe he's doing The Voice because he did the X Factor, and maybe it's all part of this grand plan to go back to where you started, which would be 1D. I don't know. I feel like at this point, maybe we're reaching. One thing I'm really excited for with Niall is that he's playing loads of festivals this summer, and obviously when you play festivals, the crowd, the audience, aren't just your fans. So I do think that he'll be aware that not everyone in the audience will know his solo music, but they will all know One Direction songs. So I'm fully expecting to hear Niall sing some 1D songs this summer at various festivals. I imagine he'll sing Fool's Gold. I'd love it if he did Act My Age, but I won't hold my breath. And then the final thing that's happened very recently is Ruth Payne, Liam's sister, and Lottie Tomlinson, Louis' sister, both shared to their Instagram stories a popular meme about One Direction reuniting. And the fact they've taken to Instagram to share it probably means nothing, but I mean, it's just, pick your moments. There's so much going on at the moment. And then for them to do that on top of it, I mean, you can see where we're spiraling. You can see why people and fans have gone a bit crazy with the speculating, right? It's just hard not to have your head in the clouds where the band members and their families are out there trying to give us a heart attack all at the same time. So the big question, is a One Direction reunion on the cards? I really want to say yes, I think so, but I don't think I'm quite ready to jump on the bus to Clowntown just yet. Harry's closing his tour, so he's going to have free time, but I personally think he's going to go straight into the studio to record HS4. I know there's speculation about Harry having a really long break after this. I personally can't see it. He's at the peak of his career, and I think that he's just going to want to continue that upward trajectory, and I think we're going to get another Harry Styles album early next year, I'm going to say. Louis, he goes back on tour soon, and that takes him up to the end of the year. Liam has told us that he's working on a second album. We think that Zayn is releasing another album, and obviously Niall's album's coming out really soon, and he's going to be doing these festivals, and I imagine he's going to announce a tour soon. But they're all so busy. I can't see when they're going to fit it in. I feel like their success as solo artists was kind of unprecedented. Normally when a band splits, you have 1 or 2 successful members. The rest of them kind of fade away into nothingness and into irrelevancy, and you forget their names. But with One Direction, that never happened. The original OG 1D fans, the OG Directioners, supported all 5 boys through all of it and will continue to do so. And I think that is really the key to them never losing the success and the fame that they had at such a high level. And obviously they're all attracting their new fans as they release music and as they do more stuff. And it's just beautiful to see it. We love to see it. So yeah, the hiatus was a soft introduction to them splitting up. It was like a backup. What a backup to have, you know. My backup plan is to be back in One Direction. You know, my backup plan was to go back and work in the cafe that I used to work in, because it's still the coffee. So I think really a reunion, probably not yet. I don't think it's on the cards just yet. I also think it would be such a moneymaker. They're not going to give it away to us for free. They're not just going to all come out on stage during Harry Styles' gig, because that's a wasted opportunity for them, you know? It's like a once in a lifetime. They could have this huge opportunity to reunite, make a massive thing of it, get all this money, rake it in. They're not going to give it to us for nothing. I do think back to James Corden and how he did the Friends reunion. He hosted that and Ben Winston obviously produced it. He kept hinting about kidnapping One Direction as he was leaving the Late Late Show. And obviously only Harry turned up on the final show. But I do wonder if there is plans in the pipeline for a similar kind of reunion where it's a big interview, James Corden and the 4 or 5 of them in a room talking about the 1D days. I think that's probably at this point the most likely thing that's going to happen soon. And it would be kind of perfect, but I'm still not convinced. I think we can consider the hiatus an illusion for self-preservation, but really, they've all done all right. I mean, they've had #1 songs, #1 albums, sellout tours, they've made movies and documentaries, they've won Grammys. I mean, they're kind of killing it. They're just all killing it. And I don't know. I want to believe. I want to believe we will get a reunion in the next few years, but I just can't see it. So who knows when the hiatus will finally come to an end. Maybe it will go on for infinity. All I know is that whether they're ready to reunite in 2023 or 2053, I will be ready to run to wherever it is they are and celebrate and support and enjoy it, because one day they'll be back together. Promise. Let me know in the comments what you think, if there'll be a reunion soon or never, or if they've already all been together in a room and we just don't know about it. And yeah, subscribe to my channel for more. I'm on TikTok and Instagram as well, and Twitter, and I spend most of my time talking about things I love, which include One Direction. That's me, I'm done. Have a lovely day, and I will see you soon.